Good morning, everybody. How's your Tuesday morning going so far?
Great.
Excellent. We're going to all try and stay awake here together. Did everybody get to see iced tea and cocoa last night? All right, great. I hope you can send some pictures. I missed them. My name is Hunter Boyle. I'm with AWeber. We are an email and social media service provider based out of Philly. Thank you for coming to the presentation today. 25 list building tricks. And just to give you a brief overview of how this is going to work, what I've done here is compiled a list of, obviously, list building ideas from case studies, from other experts in the field, from some different resources and tools that I've found. So I know that this is a class in the intermediate track, so I can almost assure you that you'll probably see a couple things here that you may be familiar with already. And I'm not going to tell you I'm the most dynamic speaker. I'm not a televangelist firebrand or anything like that. I'm pretty low key. However, I will guarantee that by the time you leave here, you will find at least one or two list building tricks that can dramatically improve your results. And I'll back up that guarantee. If you don't, please come and see us at the booth. We're at 1306, and I'll be happy to talk with you specifically about what you're doing with email, and we can look at some very specific ideas for your email or your opt-in landing pages and make sure that you come away with something that gives you a nice game. So we're going to move really quickly. I put this together in two different sections. The first is what I call the Big Five. It's kind of foundational. And then the top 20, which is just a very quick buffet of ideas that have really worked well for list building for a number of different sites. So hopefully you'll be able to find things here that you can apply to your own site, and you'll see examples that might be close to what you're doing. And I'll try and go back and forth to make sure that we have some audience input throughout. So let's get going. As far as the Big Five, these all sort of interlock, and as I mentioned, they're foundational principles. So is everyone here familiar with unique value proposition? No? No? Okay. So is everyone here, or has anyone here heard of Marketing Experiments or Dr. Flint McLaughlin by any chance? Great. So what unique value proposition is, it's a sales tool, it's also a marketing tool. It basically strives to answer the question for your potential customers, why should I buy from you instead of any of your competitors? And it's not the easiest thing to put together. A lot of times it's confused with a tagline or a marketing pitch. A lot of elements go into unique value propositions and creating them. In fact, there are so many that when I was with Marketing Experiments, we had an entire training course designed around that. We actually used a value proposition worksheet, and although the bit.ly link is not on here, if you go to bit.ly/get-value, you can actually find the value proposition workshop that I'm talking about and a really strong blog post from 2008 that describes this in more detail. So what this is used for is a foundational principle for your site, for your opt-in landing pages, for your email forms, and for the emails themselves. So if you have a header in your newsletter that explains what it is that subscribers should be expecting to receive from you with every issue, this is what is going to set your email service apart. Think about it in this way. How many of us are really excited about signing up for yet another email newsletter? Right? Thanks. When it comes to signing up for email newsletters, it's pretty hard these days to get people really interested. Now we can use things like free incentives, and we can use a bunch of other tips, and we'll go through a lot of tricks that cover that. But really what it comes down to is, what are you going to give me that I'm not already getting somewhere else? And how is it going to be better than what I've already got? So these are the elements that fall into creating your unique value proposition. And a couple of other ways that we'll see that interlock with that will help you do that are what we're going to cover now. Starting a swipe file. How many people here use a swipe file already? Excellent. Where do you get some of your materials for that? Where are you finding them?
Researching online.
Excellent.
Competitors.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Excellent. Are you also including in the swipe file, besides what you do with your competitors, those emails or those marketing pieces or sites or other digital information that resonates with you? So when you get an email that you think is particularly cool, do you set it aside in a folder, or does it just archive and sit there for a long time? Now, if you save it, do you actually go back and pull those out before you're creating your campaigns, when you're doing your brainstorming? That's the real time that you can take the swipe file and the things that you have in it, those examples and those ideas, and really roll them into what you're planning to do for a next big campaign, the next big offer, the next white paper information product that you're considering, things like that. Having a swipe file is a great first start, but not enough of us use it at the right moment. So make sure that when you're collecting those resources, you're putting those together and you're using them at the right time.
What were the sources of the things for the swipe file?
You can get competitors' information. So if you're at an event like this and you have competitors who have booths set up, you can kind of take their literature, their collateral, you can bookmark their sites. You should be signing up for their email list if you're doing email. A couple of other ideas. Anything else?
Well, I think anything that you're looking, if you notice something in your email box, know why it caught your attention and put that in your swipe file as well.
Mm-hmm.
Swipe means swipe it. Swiping ideas for other people.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
That's the term for it, yes.
The case method.
Yeah.
Competitors analysis, yes.
Yeah, that's one part of it. That's a big part of it. The other part is it doesn't even need to be competitors, right? It could be emails that you get from your Christmas shopping list.
Idea file.
Right, exactly, which is another term for it. So listening to your readers, how many of you actively survey your email subscribers? Wow, very few. Why not? Why are you not surveying your email readers? You in the blue. Yeah, I decided to pick on you, sorry.
I guess we just started doing this, so we don't have like a process to do
Okay.
these things properly.
Do you have any questions on your email sign-up form about what your readers, what you're trying to help them with?
This is mostly post-sale.
Okay. There's one idea that I had heard from a customer of ours that I thought was really fantastic. If you're using a welcome email or confirmation email, and you can just tweak that copy a little bit, a lot of the standard welcome email formats are thank you for joining our list, you'll look forward to this, that. This customer actually adds one small question to the end of that, and sometimes it's in the PS line or sometimes it's right up front, but the question is, email me back right now, just hit reply and tell me exactly what it is that I can help you with. What's your big challenge that you're dealing with right now and how can I help you? He has gotten such a response from that. He's put a huge spreadsheet together. He's taken those responses, used that exact language in his headlines, in his subject lines for developing webinar topics, for blog post topics, for email content, even for ebooks. So if you're able to take an extra step and find out what it is that your readers want to know about, you can use that for very powerful content marketing development in a lot of different ways. Another similar way to do that, how many people here are using webinars? Anybody here doing webinars? Great, a couple of people doing webinars. How many of you are using questions on the sign-up form to address some of these challenges? Are you using that as well? No? Yes, no? All right, some are, some aren't. Are you using post-webinar exit surveys to ask some additional questions about what other topics could we present? Do you need to hear about? How would you recommend our presentation today? What could we be doing better? A couple of things like that. Are you doing some of those as well?
No, but that's a good idea.
Great. I've been doing webinars for quite a few years, and I've been attending a lot of other webinars as part of the swipe file process. And I'm still amazed at how many I register for that, and you don't need to do this with everyone. I'm not saying it's mandatory, but there are so many opportunities for webinars to ask these questions at the sign-up stage, and then especially at the exit stage when you log out. If you're using GoToWebinar, On24, whatever your tool is, they have that survey tool at the end. To get that additional information besides the live Q&A, I found a lot of the most valuable feedback comes from that exit survey. If you have a webinar with a few hundred people on it and you get a 30% response rate, 40% on people logging out, you can get dozens to hundreds of really good answers that you can use for topics and creating new content. Yeah?
You get the, you see who, you get the follow-up information, you know, the email of the person who left the comments, you can get back to them or no?
Yes, when you have people register for your webinars, email is pretty much mandatory. So you can get all of that exit survey information exported into an Excel doc. So you'll have the name, email, what time they joined, and a whole bunch of other information, plus those specific survey questions and answers. So again, that's one of the most useful ways, because we all know that surveys have their challenges, right? A few of us like taking a survey. You know, sometimes the incentive will push us over. It's a gift card or it's a chance to win. A lot of us feel, me personally, that, you know, yes, you can win a $50 Amazon gift card or an iPad, but how rare is that? I don't know. Maybe I'm pessimistic, but I haven't gotten an iPad yet. So when surveys are used that way, there's still kind of a higher barrier. So if you can kind of integrate these ideas for listening to your readers into things that they're already getting, a welcome and confirmation email, parts of the webinar, you can really use that natural flow when they're interested to kind of get their feedback in a way that even surpasses surveys a lot of the time. So those are a couple of ideas for doing a little bit of reader interaction a little bit differently than the norm. So with that in mind, taking those different ideas, right, understanding what your unique value proposition is, identifying that and looking at that in comparison to competitors and what they're doing from your swipe file, getting this kind of feedback from readers, compiling all that together is going to really help you with clarifying the unique value proposition, and that's super important. For a couple of people who just came in late, again, the link for the value proposition worksheet is at bit.ly/get-value, and if you can't remember that, you can Google value proposition. It's still a number 5 result, and it's a very powerful tool. I highly recommend it for, yes, bit.ly/get-value, V-A-L-U-E. Using those methods and those different resources to clarify your unique value proposition is going to help you at every level of your content marketing. So the landing pages that you have your opt-in forms on, the form itself and the copy and how you create that, the email itself from the initial welcome message or the confirmation message to whatever you're sending, whether it's a weekly, whether it's a daily, whether it's monthly, no matter what your cycle is. And, you know, probably you'll have, if you're doing a regular newsletter, actually, let me just get a quick show of hands. How many people are using a regular newsletter, like monthly basis or bi-weekly, something like that? Okay. How many of you are doing just occasional sales emails? So it's not a regular cycle, it's just sales now and then specials. Okay. How many of you are using a mix of both? Great. I would say that ideally, and I can't speak for everybody's individual business here, but if you're using a mix of both, that would tend to give you a pretty solid approach. For if you're using a newsletter, there are obviously ways that you can employ different sales and promotions within those newsletters themselves, but targeted specific sales or promotional newsletters or emails, excuse me, will generally have a higher conversion rate because there's more focus, there's less friction, there's more clarity involved. So if you're using one or the other, but you haven't tried using both yet, I would definitely recommend using a test to kind of see what results you might get for that kind of approach. So again, clarifying your unique value proposition with all of those different steps will really lend itself well to improving your email and your from sign up all the way through fulfillment. And then the biggest part of this is testing. So testing is something that we've all heard, always be testing, ABT, test, 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 test. We all know the mantra, and we all know that secretly we don't always do it the way that we should or would like to, right? What is it that keeps us from testing as often and as consistently as we would like to?
Procrastination.
Right? What else?
Time and expense.
There you go. Those are the ones right there. We hear them over and over again. I'm not even going to do a show of hands because I know you don't want to raise your hand for that, but we all know the dirty secret is. Time to do it, we're all just busy. We're all rushing to kind of get through the regular stuff, and testing often falls into that category of, yes, I know I should be doing it. I really know I need to do it, but I just couldn't do it this time. I'm going to do it next time, right? So here's a way to get around that. Here's a quick tip that should really help make that consistent for you. Are you using a schedule for your emails already? A production schedule or a content calendar? Do you have testing as an element on that content calendar? Because if you don't, if you already have the date and the time and even the content mapped out that you're going to be sending a couple weeks in advance, or hopefully a couple months, at least a quarter in advance, if not throughout 2 quarters or the rest of the year, if you just add some tests to that calendar in advance for 2 to 3 months ahead, I guarantee you it will help you get those tests in the cycle, and it will help your testing become consistent. Once it becomes habitual, you'll find that it would be odd not to do it. And for example, if you are doing, say, a weekly newsletter, if you take 4 weeks out of the month and you schedule, say, 3 tests to just be fairly easy to do, right? Like subject line tests, right? Or intro copy, like personalization versus non-personalization. For 3 of those tests, and you do 1 major test, right? Which might be testing a different from sender or testing an entirely different opt-in form, right? What you'll have then is a cycle where on a monthly basis, you're conducting tests that can get you ostensibly moderate gains from 3 and potentially very dramatic gains from the 4th, right? That way, throughout the course of 1 quarter, say 3 months, you could realize incremental increases on some of those smaller tests, and then hopefully if you're using some of the bigger ones to get maybe some good double-digit gains, and we'll see a bunch of examples of some of those coming up right after this. You combine those, think about what kinds of increases that could give you within a quarter or 6 months, and by the end of the year, think about how that's going to grow your list. Does that sound like a good idea? Is that something that you guys would actually try? I'm trying to make sure that we have ideas that you can really take away and put into place. Yeah?
When you say test, what kind of test do you mean? You just, how many people respond, or what they respond with?
Well, we'll look at a few tests here, but what this generally refers to are the entire buffet of possible tests that you can run with email. So that starts with, it actually starts even a step before the landing page and your opt-in form, right? I mean, you can test traffic drivers to your landing page and to your opt-in form. You can test the form itself. You can test every aspect of the email itself, from your confirmation message to your welcome message. If you're using Autoresponders, you can test that series. So you could change from a 3 to 4 email autoresponder series to a 5 to 6 series. You could do different copy within those emails. You could do plain text versus HTML. I mean, there are limitless numbers of factors that you could test. One great site, how many of you are familiar with whichtest1.com?
What is it?
Whichtest1?
Which or which?
Which? That is one of my favorite sites. They actually do a weekly test. A lot of them concern email and landing pages. They do some other e-commerce and some other sites too. But if you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend it. Justin Rondeau is a friend of mine who's presenting on Sunday, does a great job, and the site itself is a lot of fun. They give you kind of an A-B choice every week. You choose which test won, hence the name of the site, and you'd be surprised how many times it goes in a completely different direction. They just did one a week or so ago about plain text versus HTML, and almost everybody assumed that the HTML version was going to win. I don't remember the exact numbers on the plain text. I want to say it was probably, well, I'll screw up the numbers, but it was probably at least a 200% gain on the plain text. So it just goes to show, as far as thinking about intuition and gut and even best practices sometimes, that can get us so far, but you really have to test, and this again is where this mantra comes from, you have to test to really see what's going to work in the field. And there are numerous options. We're going to look at a bunch of them. We're just going to plow through these next 20 ideas. And, you know, using a calendar will, I think, help most of us get over the biggest hurdle, which is making it consistent, making it happen regularly. And that's going to be the key to getting all of those types of gains. And I need to stop moving away from the microphone. Sorry. So let's start with some top 20. Oh, before I run into this, any questions on those big five, the big, big five foundational ones?
What was that bit.ly again for the unique value proposition?
That bit.ly was bit.ly/get, G-E-T, hyphen, value, V-A-L-U-E. It's actually it's a blog post that explains the entire value proposition process. It has a worksheet, it's a downloadable free PDF worksheet, not even any registration on the form, and it has the audio from the webinar that we did that covers a lot of that material. So it really goes much more in depth than I can get into here, but check it out and please let me know your thoughts. Well, that's weird. I'm not sure why that looks that way. That's not good. So that bit.ly link appears to be broken. What I will do is send you that one because this is a very important tool. This is an engagement scorecard that was put together by David Daniels. It's on ClickZ. That link actually goes to the article that explains the scorecard. So I know that this is going to be tough for some of you guys in the back to see, so I'll just explain the principle really briefly. This looks at a lot of your key factors or your KPIs for email, from delivery rate, open rate, click-through, conversion, percentage of list clicks within the past month, opt-in rate, spam complaint, and unsubscribe, right? Your metrics could be different than these, but it's a better way to try and figure out how well your email series is working than just looking at opens and clicks alone in a vacuum on a regular basis, okay? So these scores go from 1 to 3, 3 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. So again, I'm sorry that you probably can't see that in the back, but what you can do in terms of taking your own KPIs, so for instance, this one has delivery rate at a 95%, so that's a score of 3, that's pretty high. Open rate, 24%, not so great, could be better, that's got a score of a 1. Click-through rate, 12%, that's a 2, and so on. The spam and the unsubscribes are negatives, so their higher numbers are going to be lower numbers on here because they're higher negatives, right? Does that make sense? So you add these all up and you get a total engagement score of 17, right? Out of the possible of all these different factors, that gives you a slightly above average because you've got some good 3s and 2s. And again, it's not so much, these aren't the industry benchmarks themselves, but this concept is a way that if you're just looking at raw open rates or click rates in your emails on a regular basis, this will actually help you kind of see the bigger picture. Is anybody using a tool like this already, by any chance? Has anybody seen this before, this engagement scorecard? Great. give it a shot. Try and see which of your email metrics are the most important to you. Rank them. See how the engagement scorecard will help you look at what your email is actually doing in terms of performance beyond just the opens and clicks, right, and conversion rate, and see where you can improve with this tool. And
I just tweeted the link.
thank you very much, Heidi. I'm hoping that my other bit.ly links on this deck did not break as well. Let's hope that that's the case.
That last bit.ly link doesn't work.
Yeah, that one is a
It's
problem.
just- But if you go on Twitter, I'm at Heidi Cohen, and I don't have Hunter's, what's your Twitter handle?
Hunter Boyle.
Okay, I'll just read through it, okay? But it is at, here's the thing, the link is, you can just do ClickZ. Do a search on ClickZ, creating an engagement index by David Demons.
Cool.
But if you go on to, if you follow me, I just tweeted it, I'll tweet it again.
So the bit.ly is also bit.ly/engage-index, not engage-nothing. Sorry, we've got a little Mac to PC compatibility issue here, which I kind of thought by 2012 we will be beyond all that, but so be it. So I will get the bit.lys from the Mac, and we will do the rest of the slides from here. The bit.ly for this one, just right up front, is bit.ly/38-video-gain, okay? And what this is here, a lot of people here are probably very familiar with YouTube videos that use the little annotations, right? Everybody seen those? With the links, the little yellow hover over, pop overs are red, you can change the colors, do all that kind of stuff. What this person, Tim Carter from AskTheBuilder.com, did, we did great, he's a customer of ours, we've done a couple of great case studies on stuff that he's done. He really likes to test things very consistently, and he ran a test against his annotations for the email opt-in. So he had little notes, those little yellow popover notes in YouTube, encouraging people to sign up for his email list. He ran a test where in his video, instead of using the annotations, he did about a 30-second plug requesting viewers that if they like his show, sign up for the email, told them how to do it. And that plug that was rolled into the video, him making that ask in the video, outperformed the annotations by 38% on average. So how many people here are doing some stuff with video? Oh, great. Great. We've got a couple of examples. This is one. We're doing a bunch of video stuff ourselves. It's a really great medium, and there are a lot of things to kind of do with it. But this one case study here I found particularly compelling because it's one that if you're doing video, it's one that is so often overlooked. We focus on the content of the video and we don't always put that motivator, that call to action, that request in the video itself. We might feel it's too salesy or it belongs, or we've got the annotation tools or the frame tools, plugins, things like that. But if you're doing video, try a test where you use that request in the video itself and see what you can do as far as a gain over some of those other factors. And again, that video link, that case study, is bit.ly 38-video-gain, which I guess made it onto the bottom that time. Pop-ups and light boxes. Last time I presented at Affiliate Summit, I asked how many people liked light boxes, how many people hated light boxes. We pretty much split the crowd almost in half. And then I showed one or two case studies on how light boxes have worked in terms of growing lists. And I think we won some people over. How many people here in this room hate light boxes? Okay. So if you knew that using a light box on your site, as much as you and I may hate them when we run into other sites, if you knew that it could increase your list by 65, 70%, would you test them?
Yes.
There you go. So How many people are using them already? Okay, have they worked for you? Very well, yes? No? Haven't worked for you? A little? All right, we'll have to talk about what you're doing with the Lightbox. Let's talk after this, see what it's doing. This one is one that we put on our own site. You know, we try and take our own medicine and do a lot of testing. So when we added this pop-up form over our own blog, you can see that big spike to the right-hand side, 64.7% over the weekly average from that point. We're still using it, obviously. And, you know, the way that you use a pop-up or Lightbox form is just as important as using one itself, right? So there are different ways to do it. A lot of times, what annoys us the most are the pop-up boxes that show up immediately when you hit a site or within the first 5 seconds. So just a little more context for this. This one shows up 45 seconds into a user session, right? And it's one time. So you're not going to get it if you keep clicking around pages. It doesn't keep bothering you. But 45 seconds, and time is another factor that you can test with these. We found 45 seconds to be the ideal slot. There are a lot of plugins and things that can help you do this very easily. But if you're looking at gains that you can get from a very simple process, I mean, this will literally take you 7 minutes to set up if you're using the right tools. You can kind of get gains that are dramatic. I mean, look at those numbers. If you want your email list to grow, this is what I was saying about testing and putting aside, you know, our intuitions and our own biases and our own gut feelings. Many of us may hate pop-ups, but many people still like to subscribe through them. So one more example, another site that you're probably familiar with, socialmediaexaminer.com. It's a great site. It's probably, I think it was the number 2 or 3 site behind Mashable and social media. The pop-up form on that site, we did an interview with Mike Stelzner, who runs the site. He's the creator. He's a great speaker. He's a customer of ours. That pop-up accounts for 70% of their email signups. We did a case study with him earlier this year and how he grew his list by 234% in 1 year. 70% of that email growth right here, pop-up box. So, yeah.
Do you have any recommendations on tools to create pop-ups?
Yeah, there are a few. Depending on what you're using, there are sites like Padiact that will help. That's one plugin, Padiact. There are a couple of other forms that, if you use Wufoo forms, there are other kinds of plugins. I mean, there are a bunch of them. So I can tell you a little bit more about some specific ones afterwards. Talk about a couple that will plug in directly. If you're using our system, we have a form generator that kind of allows you to set different options for those things. So it can be automatically created. Other ESPs have that as well. So depending on the tool that you're using for WordPress or for your email list, there are a couple that allow you to set that up pretty quickly. Padiact is one that I think works particularly well, and I believe that's the one that we used for our test. So that's one that I would personally recommend, but I can help you find some other ones if you want. We want to talk about those afterwards.
Pop-up boxes can work both in email and on a website?
Websites.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, so when you hit the site or landing page, if you set a delay, I'm not sure what the delay on Social Media Examiner is. I think it's probably, I want to say it's around 25 to 30 seconds. I know that he's kind of testing some of those times as well. So set a time delay, use a couple of different, this is another great example of other elements that you can test, right? If you see that pop-up box there, the copy that's in there, the little image of the logo, the Site Explorer, the call to action button, those are all different elements that could be tested separately within this Lightbox test. So you could do like a subsection of tests just within testing a Lightbox. You could test time, you could test all these different things. And that's where I go back to whichtest1.com. They show you the tests that other people have run. Again, it's not guaranteed that you'll get the same results. Your mileage may vary, but as far as ideas and your swipe file and things that you can do and pointers in the right direction, great resource for that. I like to show the negative side as well. This was from a blog post that Christopher Penn, really well-known speaker and great expert on email and social, had posted on his blog. He was very transparent about what happened. This was just, I think, a week or two ago. I crammed this in last minute after I found it. His subscriptions per day after he took off the pop-up box, if you can see that, hopefully, towards the end, and the quote there from his blog, subscriptions fell off a cliff. So, again, I may not like light boxes. I might not like all of them. I especially don't like ones that show up before I've even gotten to see a site. But what you and I like and what we do on our sites and what we test and what our potential subscribers and potential customers might like are often two very different things. So if you've thought about a light box but you go, I can't really do it, I would say that this is probably, the reason I put 3 slides together on this one is because this is probably one of the easiest and fastest ways, if you use this method, to really grow your list if you're getting a lot of traffic in there. And we've even heard from a couple of people in the crowd who are using them that said, yes, it's worked dramatically for them. So check that out. If that's one idea that you take away from here today, not that it's ever been my goal to make the web more full of light boxes, but, well, so be it. How many of you are familiar with the socialtriggers.com website, Derek Halpern's site? I think he was speaking here the other day. He's a friend of ours as well. And this site I use for a couple of different examples. He actually does a really good job. He's testing very consistently. He focuses a lot on the psychology of customers and users. And what I really like about that is he takes those principles and he tries to apply them to his own site and to his email process. And so when I asked him for what was his biggest email list building trick for this presentation, he said one of the things that he's done lately is using this free updates tab to his nav bar, right? So hopefully in the back you can see that little end on the black nav bar. The text on that says free updates, and then the line underneath it, that call to action, don't miss out on these free updates, also goes to the same place. He said that while that the nav bar only gets 2% of the traffic from the site, it's got a 20% conversion rate, and over the 3 months that he's been using it, he's gotten about 1,000 new names just from that source alone. So this is another example of how really small changes to your site can help make dramatic gains in terms of list growth and in terms of, even if your site has fewer traffic numbers or lower traffic numbers than this site, if you can add a few of these different things here and there and test these, you can find a great instance where list names will go up, your list will grow, and you can find your own case studies. Maybe you change the copy from free updates to free newsletter, or you change the copy on that as a follow-up test. There's a lot of things that you can do. How many of you might be able to try, this is just a very simple WordPress site. How many of you might try using a free updates tab like this with a WordPress site? All right, sweet. And I hope that when you guys take these ideas away and then you go test them, you're going to get back in touch with me and let me know that they worked for you, right? So we can put you in the next presentation and your 200% gains and all that, right? Because we want to do that. Free ebooks. How many of you guys are using ebooks here? All right, great. Did you write them yourselves? Did you buy them? Are they compiled from experts? What is your ebook? Oh, perfect. Oh, I was just talking with a friend about those last night. How's it working for you?
Working very well.
Excellent. You use that as part of the opt-in offer?
Yes.
Terrific. This ebook right here is by Bob Serling from profitalchemy.com. It's 10-minute business success. Bob put this together by interviewing a whole bunch of experts in the online marketing field. You have Bob Bly, you have Robert Cialdini, just a ton of well-known names. He found a little space and squeezed me in there, which was very kind. And he actually, when I asked him for his biggest email list building tip, he said this was far and away his biggest. For the past 4 years that he's been running this book, he's gotten more than 5,000 new readers that he wouldn't have gotten without it, testing against without the ebook and some of his other site properties, right? So the way that he put this together is pretty simple and straightforward, actually. It's not even, you know, it's not even a long, drawn-out process where you're creating an entirely new book. This thing is, I think, about 90 pages by now. But what he does is he does what the title says, a 10-minute interview. He asks a very straightforward question. What's the biggest marketing success or challenge that you've overcome in the past year? And then he just riffs on the interview subject for about 10 minutes, takes a transcript, puts it into the, you know, proofs it, puts it into the PDF, revises it and updates it, and then the people who are interviewed help promote it. You know, they send it out. It grows through the relationship marketing method, and at the point now where he has, I think, about 29 different people involved, and a lot of them are very well-known marketers' names. Once that gets out there, think about how that spreads year over year. Think about how you could do that. Recipes are a great idea. You can crowdsource ideas for ebooks. You can kind of use interviews, Q&A with other authors, things like that. And this ebook itself, right there, adds to the list at a pretty substantial rate year over year. How many of you have been thinking about trying to put together an ebook, but it seemed like it was going to be too much work, right? So then procrastination and time come back again, right? So if you knew that you could create this one ebook, that it wouldn't just be one and done, but you could take a method like this where you could continually update it and freshen it and revise it without reinventing the wheel or creating a whole new ebook every time, that would dramatically reduce the amount of time invested, but it could dramatically increase the amount of people that would opt in. So another great idea to consider. Yes?
What's better to do, an ebook or physical book or both? I mean, I hear there can be a high returns rate on ebooks, and I don't know if people prefer one or the other.
It's tough for me to stand here and tell you which one is better, particularly for just as a general statement. But I can tell you, as far as a physical book goes, there are a lot of other factors involved. Ebooks are much easier to produce and to promote individually than the physical books. There's no shipping, there's no fulfillment, there's a lot of things that you're not going to give away a free physical book in the same way that you would an ebook, right? The costs are different, the methodology is different. So in a way, even though they're all books, it's kind of apples and oranges, you know? But for the purposes of getting something together that you could do pretty quickly, you could do yourself, right, without even external publishers or the cost or the fulfillment side, I would certainly lean towards ebooks. Now that said, this goes right back to our very first 5, you know, the big 5 foundational topics, right? If you have an ebook that sucks, then people are not going to keep downloading it. It's not going to help your list, right? You need to make sure that the ebook has quality. You don't just want to throw a PDF together and put a nice cover on it and then just say, you know, this is our ebook and go with it from there. This is where listening to your readers comes into play. And this is one of the great things about this ebook as an example, which is why I love. This whole thing is based on listening to your readers, right? This is interviews with business leaders, 29 of them and counting, right? So he gets the feedback from those people as well as from the audience about, you know, oh, this was great. I would love to see you interview so-and-so. Or, you know, I'd love to see a chapter from this person in here, right? So those are the kinds of foundational principles that make a great ebook stand apart from one that is just thrown together because we wanted to get an ebook because we needed an incentive to get people to sign up. Does that make sense? So think about, think about the content side as well as the production side and some of the hoops that you have to go through in a couple of those different processes. And I think that should help you determine which way you want to go. Yeah, real quick.
I found that a good way to stop resistance if you've been wanting to write an ebook and can't get it done is to just list the 5 or 10 high points that you want covered in the ebook. Go to Elance and have somebody write it for you.
Absolutely, that's the way to do it.
Otherwise, you'll never,
It'll be at the top of the to-do list for, yeah.
I would just get it out there.
I know that list. Yes.
What were some good questions that you would have in like an interview with, say, some industry leaders? You mentioned on a couple, but do you have any more that you could share?
Well, we've actually been doing some video with some folks here at the AWeber booth, and a couple of the questions that I've used include, what are some of the things you've tested in the past couple months that have gotten large gains for you? Or, what are some recent wins that you've gotten? Open-ended questions, describe a little bit about what you've done that's worked. Another one is, what are you looking ahead to testing in the next few weeks or months? The background question is always good. How did you get into the field that you're working in now? Or tell us a little bit about what you're doing. And then a large part of that really comes with follow-up questions and kind of taking the interview flow. I was at a great presentation the other day by Susan Bratton, who's she's a great interviewer. She's done a lot of interviews with a lot of different subjects. And there are a lot of principles that she presented that I think were very helpful. Be happy to talk with you about that afterwards, and I will sneak you the email for her so that you can get her interview tips, even though you weren't at the presentation. I will give you that email. Just don't tell her that was me, and we'll cut that out of the video. Free webinar series. Now, we already saw that a lot of folks here are doing webinars. If you haven't, I would really recommend testing the waters. Again, I've done some of those with marketing experiments in the past, do them with AWeber now. This is one that we did kind of a joint webinar with Danny Inney of Firepole Marketing. He's just an amazing blogger. He's just kind of a blogging machine. He's gotten all this notoriety from just churning out really good, high-quality blog posts. It's amazing. He's put a couple of books out, a couple of physical books, as well as a couple of ebooks. And over this past year, as he started doing more with webinars, he's seen 200% list growth year to date. So while I can't get into all the ins and outs of webinars because there's a whole bunch of factors to cover, if you haven't tried them yet, I would strongly consider trying them. And if you want to talk about resources for improving and optimizing webinars, I'll be happy to do that after this as well. Socialtriggers.com. Again, putting forms near your content. The other tip that Derek gave me with the free updates and the nav bar I think was great. This one is even bigger. I've used this before and I use it again for one big reason. If you look at that result, his blog update list tripled in 5 months because he put the email opt-in forms around the content. So a couple that you can see here, enter your email up top is one, get updates, it's free. On the sidebar is another one. What you can't see here, because we can't really scroll, is at the bottom of the blog post, even before the comments section, there is another opt-in form there. And that one was the one that he suggested really led to a big spike in opt-ins. So I had talked with a couple of other people and had asked at a previous conference, how many people think one opt-in form on your page is enough? And a lot of people raised their hands. A lot of people thought that 3 forms was too much. They thought it was overdoing it. Guess what? This page has 3 forms, and this page and the pages like it, which use that same WordPress format, very simple, saw a tripling in a 5-month span. So again, back to gut intuition versus testing. What we might think of as something we wouldn't want to see on another site, maybe we think that, oh my gosh, a site with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opt-in forms is too much. Actually, you know what? Try it. See what your readers think, because that's actually more important. So testing your form placement and the quantity, the amount of forms, that's another great idea to test. It takes almost no time to add one more form to your page. So if you could triple your list in a few months by adding one more form, would you do it? All right. This is an example that I'm really sorry because I know none of you can read it, but the idea here is that Marketing Profs, which is a great site that has a B2B event, right? They sent out an email just recently, I think it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, that was just completely different direction. It says, why I'm not attending Marketing Prof's B2B Forum, which is their event. So it was a very clever, very well-crafted email. You see the signature is Don Draper from Mad Men. So the idea, the theme for their conference is, this isn't your granddaddy's B&B, B2B marketing. So they took this idea, and instead of doing one more kind of regular conference pitch, we've all gotten, the event emails, this is coming up, here's a discount, blah, 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 we know the usual. This went completely off the rails. They had, fictional character, everybody knows, Mad Men. It's, it's sort of funny but sarcastic, it's very snarky. If you could read it, I'll be happy to forward it to you if you get in touch with me after this, because I know that you can't read it there and I wouldn't want you to. Beautiful. Heidi has it. Point of this is, while this is still early, I mean, this is a big ticket item that they're selling, right? It's event tickets for, a 3-day conference, and it's not an overnight sales thing. It's not a short sales cycle. But I had asked Ann Hanley to tell us a little bit about some of the results. She was very pleased with how it went, even though a couple people got really irritated and there were some real crank responses, and she wrote a great blog about it. The overall takeaway is that this got 30% more opens than the average in that series, and it got a lot of social buzz because it stood out as much as it did. They got a few immediate sales. Again, this is a longer sales cycle, so I can't tell you that this one email had like a 30% sales increase, but the open rate versus the series average, the social buzz, and being able to kind of use this and get this out there is going to get attention. And I think that you'll agree that having that kind of an impact with an email outside of a regular series is just what we want now and then. You don't want to do this every single time, but if you can kind of take some of these ideas and go in a total different direction, you get people's attention. It stands out, it gets buzz, it gets opens, and it gets results. I'm going to move real fast because we're running low on our time. This is a great tip I got from my friend Jeff Enty. He runs an email called who'sbloggingwhat.com. Anybody familiar with it? Perfect. If you're not, I couldn't recommend it more highly. He takes a whole bunch of information on a weekly basis from a bunch of different online marketing topics, email, social, analytics, etc., and puts together the best of the best, sends it to you every week. It's free, it's really good, and I would highly recommend it because it will help you conquer that time and resources issue that we've talked about. So that'll help your testing indirectly, right? Perfect. His tip, find guest blogs that not only use your bio and link, but that will put it above the post, not way down in the footer. That's not to say that some great blogs, use those footer links and they're still pretty valuable, but having that link up top, or even some blogs that use a combination of both, those are really strong. Those can kind of help you get additional exposure. It's above the fold, so if even people don't finish the article, if they bounce, you've still gotten those eyeballs. Look for blogs that do that as far as their guest posts. Try and get guest posts there. We actually use that same principle on our own blog, so I was very happy to see when he sent back this tip. Play up social proof. Does everybody know what social proof is? So social proof can be a couple of different things. Another word for it is third-party credibility indicators, right? So on the Social Media Examiner email, for example, it says in the header, over 145,000 subscribers, right? It also says that on the opt-in box. You can think of McDonald's, billions served, right? That's social proof. If you think about a website that says, that has a quote from the New York Times, right? We love this ebook or love this site or something like that. You get an award like a PC Magazine Editor's Choice Award. Those things are social proof. They let us know, hey, other people really like this site, this book, this email newsletter, whatever it is, this product. And those are the kinds of things that we think, well, if other people like it, it must be good, right? Think about Yelp reviews, think about TripAdvisor. The way that we're going now is very much based on crowdsourcing, reviews from users, not just experts, but still a New York Times best-selling author, right, is going to use that plug in their website or what they do, their sign-up form. So whatever you have that you can use for your sign-ups, for your site, like testimonials for your ebook, or testimonials even on your webinar page, as well as your email sign-up, use social proof, put it near that opt-in section, because that's where people make that decision, and the psychology there is going to help entice more people to sign up. It's going to help them get past the friction of, oh, I got to give my email address again, plus whatever other information you have to put in your form. If they see that 14,000, 30,000, 140,000 other people have done it, then what do you think? Well, this must be good, right? Take social proof, work on accumulating that for your emails and your site and your products, your ebooks, and when you have it, take those testimonials and put them there. We actually use this, I didn't put this case study on the slide, but we use this with our own test on revising our email opt-in sign-up. Social proof and testimonials was a huge part of it. We tripled the opt-in rate, and there's a great post about it on our blog. I don't have a bit.ly for that one, I'm sorry, but that's a perfect example, and there are many out there. Which Test 1 has some about using certain buttons and different awards, different quotes, like right at the button, at the call to action. So you can find a bunch of examples on that, but definitely try it with your own sites. Autoresponders. How many people here use an autoresponder already? Great. How many of you don't know what an autoresponder is? Perfect. Everybody knows what it is. It's a series that you create, set up, let it roll. New subscribers to your list get this series. If you're using 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, if you're using it for a sales process, one thing that I would highly recommend testing, you heard me talk about this earlier, is using interaction with your autoresponders. A lot of the time we set up autoresponders, and because we're creating them all at once in a series, we think about them from a broadcast mentality. But if you think about ways to inject interaction in there, I used that one example about the one killer question, what can I do to really help your business, right? Another one that was used by Copy Blogger is very similar. Just give me your feedback on the series so far, right? You inject the human element into the autoresponder, you're going to see a lot of results. You're going to see some input back. You're going to be able to use that to fine-tune what you're doing, and that is going to prove pretty helpful for increasing your list, getting more people on board and getting more people to stay with it and keep reading it and sharing it. Leave your readers hanging in the email, but not on your sign-up form, okay? So this is not the kind of confirmation screen that you want to show people after they subscribe. Thank you, your subscription has been confirmed. You've been added to our list and we'll hear from us soon. Click here to return to the site. Okay, so that is almost a dead end, right? If I want to click there and return, where am I going? Back to the form again, back to the home page. This is a lost opportunity right here. Take advantage of your confirmation screen on your site after people opt in and give them something. If you put your ebook there, if you put a video there, put something there that keeps them engaged, particularly if you're using double opt-in and they're looking for a confirm message. Don't just give them a thank you, you'll hear from us soon. I mean, that's like a voicemail message, right, that never gets returned. Leave them hanging in the emails. Use teasers to let them know about what's coming up in the next issue or what they can expect, things like that. Within the email, leave them hanging, but not on the opt-in form. Next to last tip, segment. Segmentation is an entirely different presentation. That, you could do a whole workshop on different types of segmentation, but one that I heard about recently that I thought was really good that I don't think gets used as much as it should is segmenting actives versus interactives. So if you're taking the part of your audience that is really opening and clicking, and you can tie this right back to the engagement scorecard, if you take that audience that's really engaged, and you take the audience that we all know and love that just doesn't open, that just doesn't click, that just kind of sits there on your list for weeks at a time, if you split them up and you send different messages, like a reactivation series to those inactives, hey, I noticed you haven't clicked for 2 months, right? What's going on? What are we not doing that you thought you were going to get when you signed up? What can we do? Send them an incentive, do whatever. There are a lot of different things that you can do, but that's a great way to kind of take the inactive part of your list and get them to make a decision, which is really what you want. You don't want to pay for subscribers that aren't taking action on your messages. You want to get as many active people as you can. You want that engagement scorecard that we looked at earlier to go through the roof. And this is one way you can use segmentation in a really dramatic way to kind of help take that audience that's not doing the numbers that you want and move them over. Finally, research. So I've used a lot of sources here. There are a lot of great ones. ClickZ, Heidi over there, I think works for ClickZ. That's a great source. Copyblogger, Marketing Sherpa, Marketing Experiments. A lot of the examples you see here were pulled from these sites or the people who work on these sites. I highly recommend them because these are where a lot of great ideas that you can steal come from. And I use steal flippantly, but seriously, you can really steal some ideas from these. Check those out if you haven't seen them for more ideas. And then right now, I just want to say in closing as we're wrapping up and take a few Q&A, I would like to hear a couple from you guys. First, I have one last question. How did I do in terms of giving you at least 1 to 2 ideas that you can take away and test pretty quickly? Does everybody have at least 1 or 2?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that doesn't? Great. So we have about a minute and a half left. Any ideas that you guys really want to share that you've done that have worked to dramatically increase your list? Just hit up the mic.
Go back to that last slide while we're asking these questions.
The research slide? Sure. I don't have a bit.ly for this, but these are all, just add .com to the end of all of them. Yes?
Do you think that enabling social plugins like Constant Contact plugin for Facebook is a good idea, or?
I think enabling the Facebook plugin for AWeber is a good idea. As far as the one for Constant Contact, I can't really comment on that. We have a lot of customers who've used that. It's actually our most popular plugin, and we actually have 2. Yes, I would say that Facebook Connect, because of its popularity, think about social proof, and in this case, it's, literally social proof. That has definitely helped a lot of people grow their lists. If you've been thinking about using it, I would say, yeah, certainly test it. Have you tested it yourself with your own site? Are you thinking about it?
Company that I was working before, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely try it. I mean, I've seen good gains. So, yeah, last question.
You had mentioned a test about HTML versus plain text.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any data or what was the content? What do you think made the test show that way?
Well, the test itself is on whichtest1.com. I can look it up for you. It was just covered the other day. The test might have run a little bit ago, but he was in the presentation and showed it. There were a lot of factors that went into it, so it was actually a pretty worthwhile discussion on plain text versus the HTML. So if you want to follow up with me, I'll definitely get you the rest of that information. And while we have to wrap up now, I just want to mention again that if you can give me your email or get my card and let me know what you're actually going to test, what you're taking away from here, I'm going to give you some drink tickets, and I'm going to try and feature you in my next presentation because I want to follow up with you and see how it worked for you. So please stop by and see me either out here or at booth 1306. Thanks for your time.